Hello everyone, good morning. Welcome to the ABAP ritual where we are learning the interview questions and answer of the different SAP technology like ABAP, OPS ABAP, ABAP on HANA, ALE iDocs, OData, and workflow. So let's start our today's session. And before going ahead, we will be having a quick recap of our last class, and then we will go ahead for today's session. So in last class we have seen that ABAP supports the polymorphism, but only the overriding form of polymorphism is supported by ABAP, not overloading. Then we have seen that here we have written some few questions like, can a class constructor will be inherited? No, class constructor is not inherited. Then can a constructor will be inherited? Yes, it can be inherited, right? But it cannot be redefined. This statement is wrong. Yesterday we were just confused. Later I went and checked up over there. So a constructor will be inherited, but it will not be able to redefine. So I can show you over here. I have already opened. So here you can see that one class is here, ZCL1PK. This is the first class. Okay. Here, two class underscore constructor, a static constructor, and constructors. That means the instance constructor. So one class underscore constructor and another method constructor is here, right? And it is activated, right? I have already activated. Let me activate once more. So and here I have created this ZCL1PK, one super class I have created over here. And in this, we have the two methods, class underscore constructor and constructor. Both the methods are implemented. That means I have double clicked on this method. I went inside and I have activated. Constructor, I have double clicked, went inside. I have not written any code, but I have activated. So both the methods are implemented. Now go back and here ZCL2PK we are having. In this class, this is my subclass which is inheriting from the first class. Okay, ZCL1PK is being inherited by ZCL2PK. Now if you come over here, right, and let me do one thing. So because already I have written over here, so it will difficult for me to make you understand. So what I will do that, I will create one another class ZCL3PK and click on this create button, click on this class, and here I will click on the save button, local object, and come to this properties. Under the super class, I'm going to give the class ZCL1PK where constructor and class constructor. Just a second, guys. Sorry, I'm sorry. You are not able to see my screen. Okay. Let me check what is the issue. Now, please confirm if you are able to see my screen. Okay, so what actually I was doing, this was our concern, right? This was our concern. Question was, yesterday we got quite confused, right? I was not able to recollect properly. But whatever we have written yesterday, that was correct actually. That everything what we had written in the slides based on the experiment, like based on the result, not simply. But because we got confused yesterday little, so due to that, I, based on my assumption, I have written, but again, it became wrong. Whatever it was earlier, that was correct. Okay. So I will tell you where was the confusion. So confusion was, can a constructor will be inherited? Yes, constructor will be inherited, but can a constructor will be redefined? No. So can a constructor will be redefined? So here answer is no. Okay. So I'm just trying to, verify over here. So it will be having a clear picture. So what I did, I create one class ZCL1PK. I'm double clicking over here so that I can show you what I have done in that class. So go to these methods, and in these methods, class underscore constructor and constructor. That means the instance constructor and a static constructor. Two constructor I have defined over here. Now I would like to inherit into class ZCL2PK, right? So just go back. Sorry, ZCL3PK. So I'm creating another class ZCL3PK, and in this I'm inheriting ZCL1PK. Okay, so this is a new class I'm creating. Let me show once again because my screen was not visible. So see, I'm going to click on this create button. Okay, already exists. Let me create one another class ZCL4PK. This class does not exist. Click on this create button and click on this. Okay, give some description, click on the save local object and go to the property, click on the superclass. Here under the superclass, this is the class I have already defined, where class constructor and object constructor both I have defined over here, right? Class underscore constructor and a simple constructor, right? And under the superclass of this class, I'm putting it over here. I'm going to press enter, right? So once I press enter, everything. Now if you come to the methods, and you can see here no class underscore constructor, right? Or neither constructor. But if you click on the save button, if you click on the save button, what will happen, that everything is now properly updated, and you can see here constructor has been inherited over here. Constructor has been inherited over here, but class underscore constructor from this super class has not been inherited, because in this super class underscore constructor and constructor both I have defined, right? Class underscore constructor and constructor both I have defined, right? And this class I am inheriting in ZCL4PK, and here you can see that only constructor has been inherited, not class underscore constructor, right? So if class underscore constructor has not been inherited, that means there is no sense of asking the question for redefinition of class underscore constructor. That means for a static constructor, there is no redefinition possible because that is not inherited itself, right? But constructor, right? But the constructor has been inherited. But if you try to redefine it, it will not allow. So click on this button, redefine, right? If you try to redefine this constructor, it will not allow, right? So I'm clicking over there, and you can see that here at the status bar at lower left side, it is showing that you cannot redefine the constructor, right? So that's what I have written over here. So I hope now yesterday confusion is clear, right? So that's what yesterday also we have written, correct? Can a constructor will be redefined? No, that is not possible, right? Can a constructor will be inherited? Yes, that is possible. Can a class constructor will be inherited? No, that is not possible, right? So this is how you can also do the experiment and you can learn. Now, if I want to define a constructor for this class, right? This is a subclass of ZCL1PK. This ZCL4PK is the subclass of ZCL1PK, right? So if for this class I want to define the constructor, what I will have to do, simply I have to click on this constructor button. And what will happen that if you click on this constructor button, its own constructor will be created. So when you create its own constructor, the rest of the story we know, right? Inside this constructor, what you will have to do, you must have to call the constructor of your super class, right? Then only it will work. So see here, automatically this code is there and you must have to enable. If you don't enable, it will not work. So if you check the syntax, that's what yesterday we were talking, right? So if you check the syntax, it will tell the constructor method must call the constructor of the subclass super constructor. That means if you enable this one, your compiler will start stopping showing this error, right? So it will not show the error then. So you must have to call the super constructor under the constructor of the class, right? Of the subclass, right? So under the subclass, you must have to write under the constructor of the subclass, you must have to write the call method super constructor. Yesterday we have discussed a lot about this and now it's clear for you, right? So this is here what we have tried to understand. Now it's clear and we'll go a little fast now. Can a constructor will be redefined? No. Now can a constructor can can a subclass have its own constructor defined? So answer is yes. We have just seen, right? It is possible. So this is what we have. This is what we have. Now, okay. So this is question. This is the question we have, and this is another question we have. This is another question we have, and this is another question we have. Right. So we have written now properly, and it's fine now. Okay. So here now it is done. And now we are done with this concept, and here let us see if everything is perfect or not. Class constructor can never be inherited, that's fine. Constructor can be inherited and can be refined, no, cannot be refined. So that's what we have written, right? Constructor can be inherited and cannot be redefined and must use the super constructor. Cannot be refined, but a subclass can have its own constructor but must use the super constructor, right? Must use the super constructor. Own class constructor can be defined in the subclass, right? That's we have written. Okay. Now, if a subclass have a constructor redefined, then is it necessary to call the superclass? Yes, that is possible. We must, that is necessary, right? We must have to use the super keyword. So with the help of super keyword, we can call the super constructor. That's fine. Now let's go ahead. And yesterday we are talking about the friend keyword, right? So friend keyword, the friend class is used to access the private attribute, private component of the uh, class, right? Suppose I'm friend class of some another class, then I will be able to access any component of that class, any private component, like private, protected, or public, any kind of component we can call. So here we have about the local class, right? Okay, here we have seen some difference between friend class and subclass. So difference between friend class means the friend class will be able to access public, protected, and private, right? No polymorphism with the help of friend class can be achieved, whereas on the other hand, in the subclass, it can access the public and protected only, not private, and with the help of subclass, we can achieve the polymorphism. Then we have seen about the load keyword and default keyword. Load keyword is going to be used, suppose if you have to access the static component of a class before NetWeaver, before ECC 4.7. Okay, so you must have to first load the class if you're going to access the static component of that class. Then only it was possible, otherwise it was throwing the error. Default keyword, right? Default keyword, suppose one class is going to be used later, right? Suppose one class has to be used now itself, but it is defined later, then we use the default keyword in order to let the compiler know that this class has been defined later, so don't throw the error, right? What is interface? We have seen many times. Again, it is written over here, so let it be like that only. Okay. What's the difference? We have seen already the difference between abstract class interface. Go through here, right? Similarity. So similarity first, it is written over here, and then the similarity. Earlier also we have seen. So I think it is a duplicate, but let it be like this. It's a very, very important question. So we can keep it instead of deleting the slides. Already we have discussed, so let's not go once again, but very, very important question. So first we have some similarity over here, and then we have written the differences over here, right? Fine. Constructor hierarchy. So constructor hierarchy, this is again one conceptual, of the, this is very important point in the fundamental ops ABAP, right? So what I mean to say that here, suppose if you have a class constructor over here, suppose you have first, let us suppose this is your super class, and in the super class you have defined the constructor and class constructor. Okay, here you have defined the constructor, and then you have the class constructor. Both you have defined over here in the super class. Okay, now you have a subclass which is inheriting your superclass. So let us suppose this is your subclass. So in the subclass, this is your subclass. So subclass is also known as the child class. Okay, superclass is also known as the parent class. So in the subclass, again you have the constructor. So the subclass is inheriting the superclass. In the subclass, the constructor is defined, and a class constructor is also defined. So this is a typical scenario which generally in interview is being asked. So he can draw a diagram and he can ask that, suppose if you have a superclass and their constructor and class constructor is defined, and again you have a subclass is inheriting from the superclass, and here in this subclass your constructor is there, and then the class constructor is also here. This subclass is having its own. Now suppose if we're going to create the object, now you are going to create the object of the subclass. Okay, create object of subclass, then in what sequence the constructor will be called. Okay, then what sequence the constructor will be called. So I'm just uh, giving the label. So I'm giving the label 1, and here I'm giving the label 2. So this is constructor is 1 and class constructor is 2, and here this is 3, and here this is 4. So you have to give the answer when I'm going to create the object of the subclass, in which sequence the constructor is going to be called, right? You have to give your answer. So just write your answer over here. Right or wrong does not matter. Just think on this and give the answer. This is one conceptual question In SAP labs also, they ask this question very frequently. So if you know about this question, just sorry, so just think on this and give the answer. So when you are going to create the object of subclass, in which sequence the constructor is going to be called, this is the this is the uh, question. You will have to give the answer of this question, right? 413. Satya is telling 413. Okay, anyone try? So thank you so much, Satya, for putting your effort. So other, please, don't think that much. If you don't know, just simply whatever you feel the best answer, just type it over here. Just here our intention is to make these particular questions answer rememberable for longer. That's why I'm asking you to write over here, because when you write, your focus get multiplied. Okay, so good. So I got few answer over here. So one is 413, another is 413, and again the last one 4231. Okay, so here these answer uh, are not very true. Actually, how it's going to happen, when you create the object of subclass, okay, then the very first time the class constructor of the superclass will be called. So two will be called first. Okay. Then in the next step, okay. So here you have the constructor, right? Here you have the class constructor, and here you have the constructor again, and here you have the class constructor. So when you are going to create the object of subclass, the very first time this class constructor of superclass is going to be called. Okay, the very first time. This is going to be called very first time. Okay, so two I have written over here. The second time this class constructor is going to be called the fourth. Okay, this four is going to be called. This four is going to be called again. Now again now again now the third time the third time you know the constructor, this three is going to be called. Okay, this constructor three is going to be called, and because in this constructor three you must have written what? Super constructor, right? You must be calling the super constructor, then it's going to call this one. So it will be after three you will be having the one. So this is one very good and conceptual question. This you can remember in this way. Okay, so hope it's clear, and if it is not clear, just let me know, or if it is clear, just write over here in the chat box that clear. So here Slaumadin is writing that 2341. So please correct your name. Your name is not appearing, Salahuddin. It's all right. So every other people are able to hear me, just check from your side. Okay, Salahuddin, please check from your side. Some problem maybe from your side. Okay, so here create object subclass 2431. This is going to be your answer. So right here in the chat box if it is clear, otherwise just write that explain once again. Okay, right here fast. If it is clear, right here super clear in the chat box, or else write explain once again. Okay, Subham Samir is raising hand. Let me unmute him. Subham. Yeah, Subham. Go ahead. Subham, you have any question? Okay. If you don't have any question, please lower your hand. Fine. So here, um, okay. So Subham is telling that, okay, explain once again. So see, what actually I'm trying to tell that you have a subclass, right? You have a subclass over here. Let's suppose you have a animal class over here. You have a animal class over here, and this animal class is going to be, this animal class is going to be inherited by the tiger class. Okay, tiger is going to inherit this animal. So your basics should be, good. Otherwise, it will be difficult for you to understand. Okay. So the tiger is inheriting from animal. Now, my question is, right? Now my question is, suppose if this animal is having constructor and class constructor, and this tiger is also having constructor and class constructor, and if we're going to create the object of tiger, then in what sequence your constructor is going to be called, right? So here at this animal, you have the constructor, and then you have the class constructor. Okay, you have defined both, you have defined. And here for this tiger, okay, for this tiger also you have the constructor and class constructor. Okay, you have the constructor and class constructor for tiger as well. So now suppose if you are writing one program, okay, and in that program you are creating the object of tiger. Tiger is your subclass over here, right? Tiger is here subclass, animal is superclass. So if we're going to create the object of tiger, first the class constructor will be called. Okay, first the class constructor will be called, and then the class constructor of tiger will be called. Okay, and then constructor of the tiger will be called, and because every constructor of subclass calls its a superclass constructor, then it is going to, then it must have to, it obviously have to call its a superclass constructor, right? So the sequence will be this one first, this one second, this one third, and this one fourth. So that's what we have written over here. Here I have labeled. Okay, I have labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, and here I have written the answer. So this 2 will be called first, then the 4 will be called first here, then 3 will be called first, and then 1 will be called. Is it making sense? Is it clear now? Subham Sanchari, can you just, yeah, good. So I believe now everyone is now clear with this concept, and let me put this slides in the PPT. Okay, so here this is a typical case generally, we are going to use. We have several cases. See here, constructor hierarchy scenario 1, when instance constructor is not defined in the subclass. There are so many cases, right? Generally 4 or 5 cases we have, right? So in this case, so now you understood the concept, and now you will be able to give the answer it properly. So suppose your instance constructor is not defined in subclass, then how the sequence is going to be if we're going to create the object of the subclass? Because if the instance constructor is not defined in subclass, then what will happen, that it will directly call the superclass class constructor, then subclass class constructor, and then the superclass instance constructor. So this is how the sequence is going to be. Here when only class constructor is defined in subclass. So suppose only class constructor is defined, not the instance constructor. In that case, superclass class constructor will be called first, subclass class constructor will be called second, and then the instance constructor. So if you understood this concept, right, based on this concept only, so if you logically understand this concept, all other scenario you will be able to give the answer. But I would recommend you go and try yourself, right? You go and try create some class and then do yourself, so that you will be able to remember it for longer. Okay, and you will be able to realize this. Realization is important, that's why experiment is important. Okay, because when I'm telling, I'm not sure how much it is making sense for you, because it is practical things, it is the fact for realization, not just a fact for listening. Okay, so if you know this already, it will make more sense for you. But if you don't know already, if you have not experimented this, if you have not realized ever before, it will be very difficult to understand. Okay, so do some experiment, then you will be able to understand. So constructor, and I would highly recommend to get my course if you don't have any basic understanding of oops abap, or if you want to learn oops abap in advanced level, right? So in my course, I have covered the oops abap from basic to advanced level. Everything is covered, all the 20 plus design patterns, then all the basic concept with experiment, with full proof, it is there. So you will get enormous benefit over there if you are looking for some video based course. So here, constructor hierarchy scenario 3, right? In the scenario 3, this is just go through the slides and try to understand what is this. That is the main one which we discussed. Generally, the question will be asked like this. If you are clear in that, you will be able to get the answer. Okay. Here, there is one more scenario. If a superclass instance constructor is having mandatory parameter and subclass is not having any constructor implementation, in that case, okay, so this is one another case. So, you know, what, let's not go into this case. It will become little puzzled. Better you try to, do yourself this thing. Understand at least this case. If you understand this case, any kind of question you will be able to give some answer, at least up to some extent correctly. So try to do yourself. Now let's go to some another important aspect of oops abap, UML, Unified Modeling Language. What is this? Okay, what is this? What UML stands for? Unified Modeling Language. So if you are from MCA background, or if you are from computer science background, one, you would have already created the use case, right? The UML diagram. So UML diagram is nothing but a set of pictorial representation, and we are having multiple UML tool. So if you are able to design your requirement in UML form, right, it will automatically generate the object oriented code for you. That's the biggest benefit of UML. So if you are able to, if you are able to represent your requirement pictorially, then what will happen that you can automatically generate your code. That's why that's the biggest advantage of the UML. Another thing, the advantage of this, that you can represent the relationship, aggregation, association, right? Different kind of relationship you can represent with the help of this UML diagram. So there are, you know, multiple way of representation. We will see some, yeah, important representation. Or on YouTube, I'm having created the free video also on the UML diagram. You can go and check from there. You can search with Pankaj object oriented ABAP UML diagram, and you will be able to see over there. So this is the definition over here. Let me read down this definition. So this can be one question, however, it is not frequently asked, but the organization like SAP Labs, they ask such kind of questions. So if you are able to like remember and if you're able to understand, it is good, but not frequently asked question in multiple organization. So what is UML diagram? Okay, so the UML diagram, this is the answer over here, but not frequently asked. We should know the concept. This is a standard pictorial or graphical representation of denoting the component of a class and its relationship, right? And its a relationship between one or more than one classes. That's the UML diagram. So when you have the UML diagram, with the help of rectangle, we denote the set of component. So here you can see that seal underscore animal, this is an abstract class. So if some class name is going to be, so at top we represent the class name, then we represent the class attributes, and then we represent the class method. So this is the sequence it is going to be, and it will be there in the block. Okay, so if something is there in italic, that means that is abstract. So here you can see that cl underscore animal is my abstract class because it is in italic. The meaning of plus means public. P stands for plus and P stands for public, right? So like that way we can also remember. So this plus stands for public, so color height is public, and this minus stands for, minus stands for private. Okay, minus stands for private, and this hash stands for static. So if something is written like this, you can understand that which is public, which is protected, which is private. Okay, and here these are the different methods. So this is the public, this is the abstract, this underscore means the abstract. Okay, and this is a static method, and here this is a private method, right? So this is how you can represent it. This is my link from where you can go and check about that UML diagram in this YouTube video link. So here, this is the question: how to represent class via UML diagram. What is the meaning of symbol plus minus, this hash and this one? Okay, now the another question over here: what is association relationship, aggregation relationship, and composition relationship in object oriented programming language? This is very important question. This is very important question. If you understand the concept of association, aggregation, and composition, then only you will be able to create the proper UML diagram. So it is very important to understand the meaning of association, aggregation, and composition. Okay, so the meaning of association means using relationship. The meaning of association means using relationship where all objects have their own life cycle and there is no owner. Okay, okay, so I have muted somebody, watch unmute, and I have muted everyone. Okay, so here association means it is a using relationship where all objects have their own life cycle and there is no owner. For example, relationship between teacher and a student, doctor and patient. So this is a association relationship. Okay, so here everything is having their own life cycle. There is no dependency on anyone, right? So if such kind of relationship is there, where there is no dependency, every object is having their own life cycle, right? Every object are independent of each other, right? But they are going to use, but if one object is going to use the another object, means a student is going to use the teacher, right? Patient is going to use the doctor, right? So such kind of relationship is categorized under the association relationship, right? So this is the object oriented, means it we are resonating with the real time real-time scenario, real-time example. That's why it's a object-oriented programming language. Everything in the object-oriented programming language considered to be an object. Object means real-time object, right? Aggregation. Aggregation stands for has a relationship, which is a specialized form of association. So aggregation is nothing but an association only, but more specific. Okay, it's a more specific, it is more specialized, which is a specialized form of association. Objects have their own life cycle, but only one of the objects will be honored. For example, teacher and school, company and employee, district and people, right? So here a school can have the teacher, right? Company can have the multiple employee, right? So here this aggregation stands for has a relationship, and here you can see that objects have their own life cycle, but only one of the object will be honored, right? Only one of the object will be honored. So here teacher and a school. So if a school is going to be honor over here of the teacher, company and employees, right? So in this company is going to be honor over here, district magistrate and people, right? So district magistrate is going to be honor. So meaning over here is there is no both side, like the meaning over here means a school has a teacher, teacher has not a school, right? Has a relationship. Company has a employee, employee has not company, right? District has people, people does not have district, right? So one way here, if you see that teacher using a student, using a student using teacher, both way, doctor using patient, patient using doctor, and so here this is the both way. Here it is one way, one, there is only one honor, we are having only one main order. So in UI5, if you have seen that there is one header, and one header is multiple items, right? So that items comes under the aggregation relationship, right? In UI5, if you have taken the course for UI5, you would have realized that what is aggregation. So for you it will be more clear, right? Aggregation means has a relationship. Composition is very specific form of aggregation, right? Very specific, means must have relationship. For example, a building can have multiple rooms, right? So the relationship between a building and rooms are composition relationship, because there is no existence of rooms without a building. So if you don't have the building, you will not be having rooms, right? You must have building to have a room. Okay, so building and a room, plane and a wing. Suppose if you have a aeroplane, right? And in that aeroplane wings are there. So if there is no aeroplane, there is no wing. So relationship between plane and wings. Human body and its component relationship, right? So human body and its eyes, human body and its hand. So if there is no human body, there is no component, right? So similarly, body and mind relationship, body and hand relationship, body and leg relationship. That's why body and its component relationship is going to come under the composition relationship. Now hope that's making the sense. Casting, very important. Casting, widening cast, narrowing cast. Okay, very important. This will not discuss today. I will suggest you go through this, uh go through this YouTube video which I have created for widening cast and narrowing cast, and tomorrow, come m- by watching that video, and I will ask you some question from the widening cast and narrowing cast, and I'm expecting from all of you to give the answer. Okay, so Pankaj, widening cast, you know, and just here. So, just go through these videos. It's there free on the YouTube. You can learn so many stuff. Explain the widening cast, narrowing cast here. What is widening cast and what is narrowing cast? So just try to learn from there. And tomorrow I will ask a few questions from the widening cast and narrowing cast. Very, very important topic. Very frequently asked, in all the big four, Accenture, Deloitte, KPMG, everywhere, uh, this this widening cast, narrowing cast. If they are recruiting for oops ABAP, they are going to ask the question, and also very frequently used, right? Very frequently used also. It's going to provide you the dynamic behavior, right? Narrowing cast and widening cast is the pillar for polymorphism, right? So that's why it is very important. We'll see some example also tomorrow. But before that, go through the video, okay? And we'll see tomorrow. With this, we are going to stop our session over here. And what you do that, mm, what you do that, today we have the interview. Just take participation in the interview and fill this form, and we'll be having the interview.